It's my privilege to invite our chief guest, Mr. Ramana, Director, Planning and Real Estate Development of Mumbai Metro Rail Corporation, to deliver his keynote address. With his vast experience in urban planning and transit-oriented development, we are eager to hear his insights on procurement challenges in mega infrastructure. I welcome you on the dais, sir.
Good morning, the organizers. Thank you for inviting me for this esteemed event. I welcome all the dignitaries, participants, and the sponsors for this event. Thank you also giving me this opportunity to speak as a chief guest and keynote speaker. I have been a lifetime planner. Okay, I keep boasting myself to be a planner. Okay, in a world where people have been appreciated for implementation, for mega projects, ensuring the completion of the projects, and so many other things. I take pride being a planner because as planner, me and my team are the people who are the brain behind all the conceptualization, bringing the projects to an acceptable level in terms of packaging the projects, ensuring the finances, including procurement, and handing over to the implementation teams. In a way, a planner's role is more like a business development guy in any private sector company. Okay, he is selling the dreams. The same way the planners also sell the dreams. But being in government for these 34 years, I have been trying to ensure those dreams come true. Okay, so today I am speaking based on my experience, not as any qualification acquired, but this is more completely based on my experience. And what are the pitfalls, what are the challenges that we do encounter in project procurement life cycle, and especially the mega projects. Where I am coming from, just to give you a glimpse that this is the metro network that is being planned 300 plus kilometers in Mumbai region. When this actually started in 2004, I was part of this process, very keenly involved in the entire planning activity, and then the initial 150 kilometers were planned by my department when I was in MMRDA. And of course, thereafter it has become doubled, and now the implementation has started, and nearly about 70 kilometer network is already in operations, and the remaining 200 odd kilometers will become reality in the metropolitan region in the coming years. This is the project I am currently working, Mumbai Metro Line 3. It's about 33 kilometer underground line with 27 stations, 26 of them fully underground, and only one is that grid. Project completion cost as per the final approved budgets is 37,276 crores. Nearly 57% of the project is being funded by JICA, and the rest by government entities and the private sector. In the process of implementing this project, I have been fully exposed to the project procurement processes, and my experience I am sharing here. Okay, so typically public projects can be divided into PPP projects, fully funded public projects, the project that we are implementing right now, the PPP Metro Line 1, which is just going in front of this hotel, the venue, which is the first BOT project of India in metro rail sector. Okay? And PPP, in other words, is the deferred payment model or annuity models. Then obviously private sector projects. And they are. My assessment is whatever government is spending, near about 2 to 3 times private sector must be spending in the private sector projects like buildings, factories, industries, and all that, and all the infrastructure associated with that. I have mentioned here the complete life cycle of a project, whether it's a public-private partnership project or a government project. I will only dwell on the top 3 points only, that is limited up to the procurement and award. Okay? Obviously, the reason why I mentioned other stages of project implementation is because the rest of the project implementation is dependent on the project procurement process. It's like what I say is wedded life of couple. Okay, so if you have not made the right choice in your life, you keep struggling with that. Okay. Now I can say 20 years back I would not have told that. Because nowadays the marriage is very thoroughly scrutinized marriage process, pre-marriage and post-marriage and all that. So that's why I'm there. So a contractor onboarded through a procurement process is your partner in implementation for the entire period of implementation, and also he is the reason for its successful extended life and extended life, design life and extended life. Okay. So that's where the procurement importance lies. Okay. So in a PPP project, so we follow typically these processes like pre-qualification, then the bid document, which is called RFP, very typical technical terms, then the bid process and bid evaluation. I'll stop there. I will not discuss about the other points because the entire process thereafter is dependent on this. That who is your partner in implementation? Go ahead. Okay. Typically, in a public procurement project, it is not PPP, it is a fully funded, also has the same set of activities with the top 4 activities playing the major role. And who is your partner in implementation? Okay. In a PPP project, typically there may be you are only selecting one partner. In a fully funded project, you may select multiple partners. Okay. So I would go one by one the 3 or 4 stages that I had mentioned. Okay. Pre-qualification is an important stage. Many people oppose pre-qualification and many people support pre-qualification. The people who support pre-qualification are the bidders, okay? The selected bidders who are confident of getting selected. The rest of the people are opposed, okay? But where it is required, it's required for a very high value projects. It's required where the contractor is required to have a specialized experience, and where the contractor is required to deploy specialized resources and restricted execution related restrictions. Like suppose you are doing something in a marine environment, you would need project contractors experience in the marine activity. Suppose you are doing something inside the defense area, then you need people who are conversant with that. So this kind of restrictions if you have, or if you are doing something in a very radioactive environment like maybe a nuclear reactor area, there also you may require specialized contractors who know those things, or maybe an offshore platform. You need people who are used and who are conversant with that process. So that's why you need a pre-qualification process, but the pre-qualification document should very clearly mention the financial eligibility, technical eligibility, history of dispute. This is one major thing that we are really confronting. People don't disclose. There are various arguments on that. Okay, whether it is good to have a disputing contractor or not, and whether the contractors are debarred or not. You need to do a nationwide, international scanning of contractors' debarment processes. Okay. Fortunately, World Bank like organizations have a standard debarment or maybe any penal action taken on contractors is published on a website. So in case of Indian environment, we don't have such a existing framework unless some departments may be doing it on their own. But this is very important thing that at a national level, a debarment list is published or an action taken against a contract is published on a public portal. Okay, so those who are in the sector of providing portal level services, procurement services, this is an interesting area where you can help the implementing agencies and the good contractors from getting the benefit of debarment list publishers. Again, adequate publicity is important. Okay, so nowadays we go onto the portals and then we don't publish in the newspapers. Okay, there is a provision under which I don't have to publish a newspaper notification if I am publishing my tender on the CPP portal or at the Central Procurement portal. I don't have to publish even a newspaper advertisement. So how the participating bidders will come to know? You have to be active on the portal environment, the B2B the bidding process conducting portals. Then also at the time of publishing your pre-qualification document, you need to be very clear of your primary tenets of the project. What is the funding method, what is going to be the procurement process that you will be adopting, and selection process that you will be adopting, what is going to be the bid document that you will be using. Because PQ documents, there are very, very sketchy frameworks available, but you have to design your own PQ document with thorough information which you want to disclose to the bidders at that point of time. And the bid process should have a limitation that also need to be published in the PQ document, because if you are going an unendingly period of 2 years, 3 years in the bid process only, some of your contractors may become bankrupt during the process itself. So it is very important to limit the bid process time also. Then what are the things that we need to ensure in a RFP, request for proposal, which earlier used to be typically called tender document or a bid document. Now most people use this term RFP, request for proposal, which is common for consultancy as well as the works contracts or supply, install testing, material supply contracts, manpower. Everybody is nowadays calling them RFP. Okay, so typically it covers consultancies, construction, supply, install, testing, commissioning, operational maintenance, service contracts, and manpower supply contracts. Okay, because that is becoming another major area of contracting, supplying qualified manpower. Okay, there are entities earlier it used to be called manpower consulting, something like that, but it also not considered to be a very decent business. Like people are taking certain charge over the manpower cost as their commission or brokerage or whatever it is. But now that is a open. Government is appointing agencies to supply manpower and allowing certain commission over that. And qualified manpower are slowly and steadily depleting in India. These people are not available full time. It is another area that's very, very important for projects to sustain in the implementation as well as operation and maintenance, and also several government departments to work. For example, we have near about 125 people in our organization who are supplied through manpower supply agencies. Okay, it's happening anyway, even in the private sector also. So we need to find right methods to do that. Okay. Then primary tenets, as I told, that scope, deliverables, duration, consideration, that is payment, whether it is upfront payment, monthly payments, or deferred payment, whatever is that. Then selection criteria, because whether the India's USB has been always the lowest cost tenderer was selected. Fortunately, thereafter in the consultancy that QCBS has come, quality cost based selection criteria, which is a combination of cost and the experience and the quality of the bidder and their experience. In some cases, highest bidder is allowed. So it's basically the purchase of properties, assets, etc. They always use the highest bidder as the criteria. We have fortunately the FIDIC documents. Now I think everybody is conversant, including private public sector, which has the yellow book, red book, and whatnot. There are about, I think, 12-15 variations in that, lump sum contracts, UPC contracts, plant and machinery. So you need to select the right kind of FIDIC document. But if you are implementing the project through funding agencies, assistance, multilateral, bilateral, they may themselves have standard FIDIC documents. With minor modifications, you will have a good bid document which will have general conditions, special conditions, and other set of documents to be included. So it makes a good bid document. But you have to be very careful about adopting the special conditions of the contract. So SBDs are good, but you have to be very, very careful, because in a project cycle running into 3, 4, 5, 7, 10 years, the special conditions may trigger any kind of situation in future. Okay? For example, nobody imagined about COVID-like situation. Force majeure was a dormant clause in all the bid documents. Okay? But suddenly force majeure has become an important clause after the COVID. Okay? Then, of course, as I said, that EPC, which the government will give us a percentage most paid BOQ tenders. Then lump sum tenders in civil or this kind of thing. And then also there could be an annum-based contract. There can be a limited contract. Various documents are available. What document you do? Then, of course, in the document we need to mention, as I have already told, that functional requirement, technical requirement, specifications. The specification include your Indian standards you use international standards. Okay, the procurement terms, milestones, then integration with other packages. Like we have encountered serious issues when we have a long 33 kilometers network which is divided into different contractors. Then the area where both the contractors are joining, okay, the center lines have to match, the edges have to match, the train has to move seamlessly between the two parts of the tunnel. So the integration becomes very important. The power supply has to be passing through. So many other things become very important. So the milestones are very important. Okay. So generally the payments are linked to milestones. So that's why I'm telling that payment terms which includes milestones. Okay. Then client and employer responsibility. We have committed to keep the land for project, for the off-project facilities like casting yards or labor camps. These need to be ensured and also to be mentioned in the document very clearly. Quality assurance, quality control, the primus of the project, its life and its longevity is dependent on that. Then safety, health and environment. Work zone safeties are very, very important. It is no more take it easy kind of thing for contractors. So those things are very clearly mentioned in the bid document. Then obviously national and local laws are mandatory on every entity which is conducting business in India, but still it is better that you mention what are those mandatory laws that may change, may not change. So suitably the clauses have to be mentioned in the bid document. I will complete in just 3-4 minutes. Okay, so RFP provisions continue. Define owner, client, engineer, or project manager or competent authority. Because we have seen situations where the client is not able to change the engineer. It has happened in case of one of the other civil. The contractor is onboarded during the process of implementation. The engineer has to be changed for certain reasons, and the contractor raised an objection. It has led to substantial delay in project also and implementation. But this is very important. Who has the power to change the engineer? Then contractors representative to whom you are going to deal. Not every Tom, Dick and Harry from the contractors department will be allowed to write letters or represent his issues or raise disputes, anything. So who is going to be the authorized representative of that? Then, of course, the engineer or the project management agency would do the project supervision, but contractor also has a responsibility to provide you the progress reports, project monitoring reports, that could be a monthly, quarterly, or annual progress reports, then complaints reports, as you may be requiring. Like Government of India is insisting that every construction project should use X amount of fly ash in their projects. So you need to comply with that requirement and publish. Okay, if you are doing work in a marine or a CRZ zone or a mangrove area, so you need to do certain reporting and compliances to the environmental department. Those are also contractors. Of course, they will be moderated and reviewed by the consultant, and the client, as a client, you may submit to them, to the authorities, but it is the contractor's responsibility. Another important thing and the essential part of the contract is escalation, variation, and extra items. Okay, these are the things that you cannot avoid. Only the contracts which are completed in less than 12 months don't have escalation provisions generally in government. But yes, a decent escalation provision is good for you to starting cost of the project to be limited to your budget. Okay. Then unforeseen conditions are another thing that you may encounter some unforeseen technical situations. I am not talking about the force measures which are like COVID or a political event. I am talking about the unforeseen ground conditions, unforeseen situations that are arising. So you need to very definitely, very eloquently describe what could be an unforeseen condition, and then what as a client or an employer you are going to offer to the contractor. Whether it is just a time extension or you will offer a cash compensation, how that will be calculated, that need to be decided. Then termination, obviously, if both parties don't agree to go along, there need to be a termination clause available in the contract. Force measure, as I said, that COVID has made us more aware about what could be a force measure. We need to properly define and ensure what is a force measure. Arbitration and dispute resolution is an important provision that need to be addressed, which is again will keep your project cost at a minimum, because contractors expect certain assume certain risks. If you can mitigate those risks through various provisions like this force measure or maybe a situation, the dispute resolution and the arbitration provisions, then contracts would keep their contract cost, bid cost at a low level. Of course, defect liability, warranty. Then another important in a plant and equipment scenario is the OEM continuing to supply you the spares that are required. You may take certain amount of spares in the beginning, but OEM should be made a binding contract to supply at least for a certain period the spares available, even if he is not the AMC, is not, it is being maintained by department or the owner. Still, OEM responsibility to supply the spares cannot be ignored. That also need to become part of the bid document. So how do you publish the bid? This is notification of invitation, then pre-bid process, then corrienda, addendum, then bid receival. So the date, because there are various ways people do receive. World Bank largely encourages to have a day to receive the bid, not last date of receiving the bid, because which keeps you aware and prepared for that. Otherwise, if somebody is submitting a bid 15 days prior to the bid submission date, then there can be a little kind of chaos in the system. Okay, so it's better to receive the bid on a given date or a given set of days. 2 or 3 days you can allocate that people should submit their bid in the last 2-3 days. Obviously, price bid, earnest money deposit or bid security, in what form you will take, how you will take. If a bidder, we have encountered situations where bidders have submitted the bid security of a third party who is not at all involved in the bid process. So to whom after the bid process the bid security will be refunded. That is a challenge. So we need to be very careful about that also. Okay. Bid evaluation and award, every department, every client have their own way of evaluating and awarding the bids. Okay, so then contract agreement, generally the contract agreement that you are enclosing to the RFP should be the final version of it. Don't, any amendment that you make after the award of tender can lead to disputes and challenges and increase your cost and time. Okay. So it is important that you need to freeze your contract agreement much before the RFP is published or before the date of receiving the bid. Okay, I'm talking these things based on my experience. We have done the procurement for so many contracts, 8 contracts including the report. Major tunnels which are 2000 plus contracts, 2000 plus crores. Then we have 3, so these are various forms that we have. EPC design and build, BOQ tender, supply, just supply of rails, then track work design and build, then rolling stock, train supply including design, testing, commissioning, and also some spares are getting supplied in the contract. The other system contract, there is 15 of them, all the electrical, telecom, signaling, fare collection systems. Then consultancy, we have one major general consultancy, then there are other consultancies. This is on a magnum basis again, which has a very, very decent escalation clause. Okay, this is 10 years old contract, so you can expect what will be the escalation. Then other consultancies and Damson, and then O&M services and non-supply contracts. So again, these are IC international competitive bidding or local competitive bidding and all that. Okay, so I will come to the last part of my talk. What are the challenges that we have faced and we generally face in public procurement? PQ limits the participation of the bidders at the time of bid. Okay, suppose you have taken, you have received the PQ document and you took 2 years to finalize your RFP. In that time, there can be 4 or 5 other people become qualified to your pre-qualification. So it is important that you need to time your PQ adequately in advance, but right in time, so that you have a good number of participants to select from. But there is a criticism that in a pre-qualified tender, the bids tend to become expensive, and it limits the participation of the bidder because it's not an open competitive bidding. Okay, so but this is required to ensure qualified and eligible contractors which are reasonably of same standing in the business and offering you a right kind of price for selection. Okay. Again, in the PQ document stage or in the bid, joint bidding bidders are another major challenge that we face. How to define a joint venture to participate in the 2 or 3 joint ventures are generally allowed, who is supposed to be the lead. The lead who has participated in the bid as a leader will be an invisible partner in the tender contract implementation. This is another major challenge that we have faced, and we continue to face this in future also. Okay. Then domestic procurement, and then nowadays it is called Make in India thing. So you may have a vast number of bidders outside the national procurement grid India contractors, but we need to judiciously decide about the domestic preference provisions. Okay, so what is the domestic preference that we introduce, and then how you will implement that? Because there's a lot of imported components being used, how much of the imported components you allow to use, whether the Indian components are good enough to work, do your work or not. Then financial capability, access to liquidity, because see, the contractor needs working capital. We have often confronted a situation that contractor just says that I don't have funds. You need to clear my bills in 15 days, in 1 week. In private sector, maybe it is possible, but in public sector, processing a contractor's payment in less than 45 days or 1 month is really a big challenge. Okay? So the contractor need to have, suppose you are unable to process one monthly payment, so that means the contractor should be ready to run the business, run the activity at least for 4 months. That much of liquidity need to be available. I think for the first time in 2010, we have introduced that clause in a large tender, which has become a very fiercely argued clause, how you will ensure, but then it has helped us in certain ways. Of course, contractors are smart enough to even overcome that situation also. 6 years down the line, that clause is no more implementable. Okay. Then adequate resources, including the contractor deploying the necessary softwares. Today it is very important, because if the contractor has to work in a BIM kind of environment, he need to have that kind of manpower, that kind of software licenses that he has. Or if you want the project to be progress to be reporting on a Primavera or on a SAP-based process, so those also become part of the resources. So adequate resources apart from man machinery and methodology and material access to them, the software is also important. Then limiting subcontractors is another important provision, that challenge that we have faced and will continue to face. There are some contractors, ambitious contractors, who want to become change their order book or other thing. So they try to enter into the fray through a back-end arrangement. So back-to-back subcontracting cannot be ruled out in many contracts, or substantial part being subcontracted who is not your empanelor. So it is better to have in the RFP a proper clause, how much percentage of subcontracting will be allowed, how a subcontractor will be qualified to work on the project, so that need to be, it's like a vendor, even subcontracting needs to be mentioned very clearly. Okay. Again, I said history of disputes, many contractors hide it. You need to find ways to get the right information. Then misuse of dispute resolution and arbitration. Yes, now we started including this clause very prudently, but yes, we are confronting the disputes, we are confronting the arbitrations. But if we have to lift up as a very good business environment, we need to have appropriate arbitration and dispute resolution clause. Okay, so the works we have completed. We have opened 12 kilometers of line from Array to BKC. So these are some of the images of the project that we completed using all these categories. So these are the stations. This is, I think, Marolnaka station. I understand. This is an atom technique construction. Okay. This is the, I think, international airport station. I welcome all of you to use the metro and contribute to the improvement of environment. Okay, doesn't your private vehicle. Thank you very much.